Golf games are a bit of a strange choice for a lot of people. You either love them, or you think that everyone who loves them is insane. I'm firmly in the former category because when I was a kid, I joined a summer golf training program where they taught youngins how to play real golf. Very, very little in life is better than waking up when it's still dark out, getting ready, and then practicing golf at the crack of dawn with friends. The crisp air, the relative silence accompanied by the occasional chirp from a bird or two, and the crack of a club hitting a ball for hundreds of yards. The often beautiful landscape, and the casual precision of just playing the sport. If you haven't gone golfing on an early summer morning, you haven't lived. Sorry. Originally, I was going to make this a review of Tiger Woods 2005, but I realized that there isn't a ton to say of relevance for a single golf game. At least not to an audience that cares about game design rather than golf game design. So instead, how about a bit of a comparison between the majority of the golf games I own? What's the difference between them, and what exactly makes them stand out? This analysis, of course, goes out to Christian from the Stare and Dream channel, because he demanded it. And how can I say no? Check out his main channel if you're interested in reviews of games, movies, and music, all brought to you by one of the goofiest and most enjoyable personalities there is on YouTube. Trust me, though my description sounds generic, his content is anything but. The videos are much better edited than mine, much more concise, and often really hilarious. He's also got a Let's Play channel with a few of his friends, so check out Fanny Smack if you're looking for even more laughs. So on to the games! First up is Hot Shots Golf 3 for the PS2. Car. This game basically embodies the origins of video game golf games and their design. Courses are imaginary and often really extreme or goofy. Characters are cartoony, and the mechanics are more arcade-focused instead of a one-to-one simulation of real golf. Hot Shots 3 uses the classic 3-click system that Tiger Woods would eventually replace with something more organic. In the 3-click system, a meter appears at the bottom of the screen. Click the shot button once, and a bar will start traveling across this meter. Hit it again, and that dictates the power of your shot. The bar will then start traveling back toward the starting position. You then try to hit the button one more time as it reaches the starting position to get perfect accuracy. Anything less or more means your shot could hook or slice into some random errant direction. For anyone who doesn't know, holes in golf are always either par 3, par 4, or par 5, essentially meaning you have to get the ball into the hole in that amount of shots or less. The lower your score under par, the better. Real golf has an enormous amount of factors, but games usually focus on 3 basic things. The lie of the ball, which is what sort of surface you're hitting from. Taller grass makes hitting the ball more difficult, as do things like sand, etc. The second factor is wind, which should be self-explanatory. And finally, we have the speed of the surfaces. How the grass is cut, the type of grass, and things like weather all affect how well your ball will roll on the surface. This is crucial to take into account on the green while you're putting, especially. Your clubs each offer different benefits based on their shape, and they each have a maximum theoretical distance the ball will be able to travel when hit. So using the right club in the right way dictates a lot of your success. All of this stuff is accounted for in Hot Shots Golf 3, and the player has a lot of options for tackling situations. Is there a tree in the way and the wind is pushing the ball towards said tree? Apply some draw or fade spin so that the ball curves through the air like a boomerang, avoiding the obstacle while still landing where you want. Want a loftier shot or one that cuts straight through the air better? You can do that too. Want to apply backspin? Do it. Hot Shots 3 does all of this through presses on the D-pad during the meter portion of the swing. As such, execution is a large part of pulling off more advanced shots in this game, whereas other games we'll talk about later will allow you to just adjust meters and stances to alter the shot, no physical skill required. So if, for example, you want to apply fade to a shot in Hot Shots Golf 3, you have to hit the shot button to start the meter, hit it to choose your power, and then hold left on the D-pad until you press the shot button again for your accuracy. Draw is the opposite direction. Backspin is holding down, and topspin is holding forward. That's the easy part. The difficult part is if you want to apply super versions of these techniques. Super backspin can be useful, for example, if you land your ball just past the hole. Super backspin will not only spin your ball back toward the hole, but if it hits the pin, the flag sticking out of the hole, it will climb up the flagpole before dropping straight down into the hole. To do these more complex techniques, an extra step is added. Now you have to press the shot button to start the meter, then immediately press and hold the opposite direction to the technique you want to do. So for backspin, you hold up. And then after you hit the shot button again, to pick your power, you press and hold the normal button. So for backspin, that'd be down. Then you hit the shot button a third time for accuracy as per usual. This may not sound difficult, but it's really complex when you're having to hit these buttons all the way across the controller in specific orders within 2 seconds of time. There's even more intricacies to Hot Shots controls, but for now, let's move on to a game that contrasts well with this. Tiger Woods 2005. Tiger Woods during the mid-2000s were goofy games. Instead of just commenting on your shots when you do them poorly, the commentators would often make jokes and berate you for your failure. Characters did dances and stuff when they succeeded, and would get unjustifiably angry when they made a mistake. They had the cringy 2000s attitude, or cringeitude, that most other EA games of the time had. This set them apart from a lot of other simulation golf games of the time though, which were super straightforward and clinical. But it also set them apart from Hot Shots, who was the big dog at the time. Hot Shots was comical, but it's always at the expense of the character.
I'm a horrible assassin.
You're not my real mommy. Send me to an early grave.
Where Tiger Woods was usually passively hostile to the player themselves in a comedic manner.
It's the lumberjack in him, always looking for the trees, hanging around in bars and wearing women's clothing.
That's definitely not the only way Tiger Woods differentiated itself, however. Mechanically, the Tiger Woods were very natural at this time, compared to the competition. Instead of using the 3-click system that was prototyped and popularized by games like Golf on the NES, EA's developers came up with the swing stick system. Essentially, to swing, you pull back on the stick of your choosing and then flick it all the way forward. It's that simple. Your power and accuracy are dictated by how long you spend in your backswing, how straight you flick the stick forward, and the rhythm with which you do the whole swing. In real golf, having a good swing rhythm can have a massive effect on your consistency, which is mimicked here as well as in most later golf games, because of games like these early Tiger Woods games. Interesting that despite Tiger Woods being much more of a simulation-focused game than Hot Shots, most of the other aspects to your shot are designed around pre-shot and post-shot strategy, and this only gets more true the further you get down the series. Want to adjust your loft? Adjust your stance. Want to add spin? Hold a direction and tap L2 while the ball is flying through the air. About the only thing dictated by your swing type in Tiger Woods 5 in the moment are draw and fade, as well as adding power boost. To draw or fade the ball, you instead pull your backswing back at an angle and then flick it forward at that same angle. And to add extra power, you mash L2 well in your backswing. But even this changed, as we'll see later. One of the other things Tiger Woods and Hot Shots both did at this time was to allow players to specialize the type of golf they wanted to play. Hot Shots has an eclectic cast of characters who each excel at certain things, and struggle with others. Tiger Woods, meanwhile, lets players create a character, who grows over time through various means. In 05, for example, anything you do while golfing earns you money. Money can then buy you unlocked gear, which boosts the extreme nature of stats, while spending money directly on the stat raises it. This both gives the game some choice and nuance to make things a little bit more engaging, but it also has a pretty big downside, at least in Tiger Woods' case. Characters growing over time through upgrading stats means your stats suck to start with. Therefore, unless you are only playing multiplayer exhibition matches and such, where you can pick from various pros, you are simply unable to play your best rounds of golf for a long while, no matter how skilled you are. Hot Shots kind of gets around this problem by making the better characters that you get later much more difficult to use, so technically you can use the starting characters and still play better golf because you're more effective with their lax accuracy requirements and stuff compared to the harder characters. Speaking of, and moving forward, we have Hot Shots Golf 4. This game basically takes Hot Shots Golf 3 and improves it in every way. More characters, including guest characters like Ratchet and Jack, more gameplay options, more courses, and slightly improved mechanics. One of the new mechanics is the full shot. In Hot Shots 3, you could press square to enter power shot mode, which would give you something like an extra 10 yards on your shot, but this could only be done a certain amount of times during a round. Hot Shots 4 adds the full shot. If you press square to enter power shot and then press it again while you're teeing off, you'll enter full shot mode. Full shots add even more yardage, but only if you get perfect accuracy. Speaking of accuracy, one of the lesser utilized mechanics, unless you're really proficient at this series, is what's known as a super perfect impact. For any of you in the know, you understand that the PS2 actually had pressure-sensitive face buttons. This is what allowed you to do things like put enemies in chokeholds in Metal Gear Solid 3, and then if you pressed the button harder, Snake would kill them, but if you didn't, he would simply hold them there. Hot Shots utilizes this with Super Perfect Impact. To get a Super Perfect, you need to press the shot button with just the right amount of force while choosing your accuracy. If you get perfect accuracy and hit the button with the exact amount of force needed, you'll get a Super Perfect Impact. Not only does this mean that the ball is guaranteed to land exactly where you plan to hit it, but it also means that the lie of your ball is effectively a non-issue. So if you're stuck in the sand and your shot power is limited to between 60% and 95% of that club's maximum distance, it's guaranteed to hit for 95%. Again, while it's a more arcade-like experience, it's rather impressive how well Hot Shots captures both the control a golfer has over their shots, but the risk and challenge involved in trying more complex shots. The controls aren't organic like Tiger Woods, but they provide a lot of nuance. One last example of this is with approach shots, which are any shots you take while you're close to the green, but not yet on it. In games like Tiger Woods, there is no difference between approach shots and normal shots. Want to make an approach shot? Switch to a club that's designed for that. It's that simple. In Hot Shots, approach shots can come in two flavors that are both distinct from normal shots. The first style of approach shot is limited to like a 30-yard distance or so, and usually they have high loft, coming down into a bounce on the green and not generally rolling super far. Ultra approach shots, likewise, can only carry about half that distance, but they fly low and roll quite a lot. Normal approach shots are good if you're a bit further away, or if you're, say, stuck in a sand trap and you need out. Ultra approach shots are much better for getting consistent chip-ins, though. You can instead use them to guarantee that your ball lands on the green, and then adjust the shot like you would a putt, so that it rolls the rest of the way into the hole. Again, this sort of choice gives the player a lot of nuance to their decisions. So next up is Tiger Woods 08. A few years removed from Tiger Woods 2005, and a few years further refined. This is my personal favorite in the series, both because of the mechanical design, said refinements to these mechanics, and because of the integration of minigames into the career mode. The mechanical differences mostly consist of, as I mentioned earlier, further removal of mechanics from skill with the controller, and further emphasis on strategy instead. Where you have to flick the stick diagonally in 05 to perform a draw or a fade, 08 has a slider you manipulate with the left and right bumpers before you make your shot. Not only does this give your draw and fade more nuance, but it ensures that you can set your shot up exactly how you want. As long as you don't slice it or something, you're fine. The effect that this has is that you can more easily attempt riskier shots, meaning you can really push your mind to its golfing limits. It pushes your understanding of the sport rather than your skill at playing video games. Neither approach is better, but I like that we have options like this. On the surface, these look like similar games, but these changes can make a huge impact. Meanwhile, effectively Tiger Woods 08 has two career modes. One is just the regular seasonal championships that you access on the calendar screen, just like in most other EA Sports titles of the time. The other almost looks like a board game layout, where your goal is to start at the bottom and slowly take the entire thing over. Each piece of the board offers a challenge, like trying to save several shots that have landed in the bunkers, or needing to get 3 up in match play with only 3 holes left. There are even unique games like Bingo Bango Bongo, where the player and their opponent compete to get the furthest drive, the closest approach, and the best score on each hole. Or there's things like One Ball Challenge, where both golfers take turns hitting the same ball. The one who sinks the final shot wins the hole. But the key is that, while your goal is to make your opponent's shot as difficult as possible, or risk making the shot yourself, you still have to hit your shot within a certain area, otherwise you can lose up to 2 turns, giving them a huge advantage. So you have to find ways of sabotaging your opponent without hitting it in random directions or into out-of-bounds places or whatever. And you have to do so while also trying to set it up so that they have no choice but to give you an advantageous shot. These types of minigames aren't uncommon in the earlier Tiger Woods games. Hot Shots Golf 3 and 4 have some too, in the forms of par 3 challenge courses and miniature golf. Tiger Woods, meanwhile, usually offers strange ways to play golf, like Bingo Bango Bongo, and things like driving range accuracy challenges, recreations of classic real-world golfing moments, etc. Unfortunately, these were eventually mostly phased out in favor of more realistic golf, with the next Tiger Woods game we look at really having nothing but these classic golf moment challenges as the featured minigame in the career mode. So why don't we go ahead and move on to that game. Here we have the game I wanted to like the most out of all of them, but is arguably the worst, Tiger Woods 2012. This game was packaged with my PS3. I got this specific PS3 because it included this game, which was new at the time. That, and I was also under the impression that it included a Move controller, which it didn't. And that's one thing worth mentioning really quickly. While this game has major issues, it is really polished and has a great aesthetic. It still holds up graphically, and the move support works pretty darn well. It has one fatal flaw though that made it really difficult to enjoy overall. The caddy. I should put a Kid Icarus picture there. Outsiders to golf usually assume the caddy is essentially just a slave who carries your clubs around. And while they do indeed carry your clubs, your caddy has a much more important role. They are your strategist. They know the course, they hopefully know how you play, and they know the physics of golf. Like, really well. While you as a golfer should also know this stuff, your caddy is an extra mind to throw ideas off of and get advice from. This game tries to utilize that as a core mechanic. Now, your caddy will give you the advice he believes will help you succeed with your next shot. Previous Tiger Woods games had this at points, but it was always just a little message at the bottom of the screen or something like that. This time, he's a physical, digital being. Sounds great in theory, but what kills it is how he affects the difficulty. Instead of just giving you advice, on normal difficulties, your caddy straight up offers you shots. He picks your club, he picks your draw and fade, he picks the direction you face. I believe he even picks the spin you put on the ball. He gives you multiple shots to choose from, he tells you how much power you need to put into the shot, and all you have to do is hit the shot with the correct accuracy and power. Granted, you can set up your own shots entirely, but firstly, you can't base these off of his recommendations, meaning any deviation from his example will reset everything, and you have to set everything up yourself. More importantly though, why would you set up your own shot when even in the very beginning he'll offer you nearly optimal shots? And what's worse is that he only gets more precise the more you play a course, meaning he'll eventually start offering shots that are effectively perfect. Your role in the game at that point is reduced to nothing but flicking the stick properly and listening to him yammer on. And trust me, learning to flick the stick properly on normal difficulty is not hard. It's like 10 minutes worth of learning. The killer, though, is that his role in your gameplay is tied directly to the difficulty. So the only way to turn everything but his vocal advice off, which is the preferred way to play, because you actually get to play the game, is to also ratchet up the demand the game has for your accuracy and precision. And I believe also your opponent difficulty, though that might be separate. It's the same kind of baffling design that a lot of shooters have. Well, we need to make a hard mode, so why don't we make it so the enemies do more damage, take less damage, have more health, and are more aggressive? That won't be overkill, right? So if you actually want to play Tiger Woods 2012, you'd also better be a master of the shot stick, otherwise your rounds will suck every single time. There's just no middle ground, and that's really unfortunate. Next up, we have golf in GTA 5. Not to be taken seriously, but still worth noting. Golf in GTA 5 is rather awful in a lot of ways. There's only one course, and that course only has 9 holes. There are obviously no modes or stats dedicated to it, so you can do nothing but play generic stroke-based rounds. The course design is pretty bad while we're at it. The player is lacking a lot of options for tailoring shots. There is no rhythm to your swing, which can really throw you off if you're used to the more logical ways Tiger Woods does it. The physics are floaty, and the friction on the ground is bafflingly strange. The putting grid is too light to see at most times of the day. It's a mess. Though it does offer 2 positives that make it worth the agony. Firstly, I really like the way spin is handled in GTA. Just like in Tiger Woods 05, it's handled while the ball is in the air by holding a direction and mashing the spin button. Here though, because of the strange physics, the spin has a huge impact on gameplay that can actually be really fun to play around. Dare I say, it's handled better here than it is in Tiger Woods. But more importantly, this is the only game of golf where you can do things like this after you're done playing. Quick note before we move on, apparently I captured this footage in a hacked lobby, so now I guess my PS3 character on GTA 5 is over level 300. That doesn't happen in other golf games? Figured that's worth noting. We have one more detour to take in the form of Sfida, a golf minigame in Dark Cloud 2. I used to love this minigame when I was younger, and it can work pretty okay on certain levels. I'm not 100% certain, but it also seems like it's using underlying tech from the Hot Shots games of the time. This is a great idea. Unfortunately, it ends up being an astonishingly frustrating experience more often than not. Where GTA 5's golf kinda sucks because they try to be like Tiger Woods and don't really get anything right, this game kinda sucks because they try to be much more arcadey than normal golf games, including Hot Shots, and also don't really get anything right. The goal of Sfida is to get the randomly placed glowing orb into a randomly placed circular goal in a randomly generated level in an extremely strict amount of turns. This is brutal in practice. Take this level for example, part of the first dungeon in the game. It has tight corridors between rooms. That's fine so far, because it's fun to bounce the ball around like you're playing pinball or something. What's not fine are the pipes hanging from the ceiling, which have entirely too accurate collision, and send your ball in unpredictable directions because of this. Or the water channels on either side of the pathway, which are almost impossible to avoid and are considered out of bounds. And yet, despite this, they still give you an impossibly low amount of shots to get the ball into the goal, which is almost always all the way across the level. Some levels work because they're extremely open. Most, like this one, do not. Sfida sucks, not because the underlying mechanics don't work, they're pretty great. It sucks because the design around those mechanics leaves your success up to luck. The only saving grace is that Sfida has Dark Cloud 2 attached to it. Finally, we're at my most recent golf purchase, Golf Club 2. I'd briefly played Golf Club 1 on the Xbox One earlier this year. I was super excited for it, but the subpar graphics and awful performance really killed the experience for me. At least on PS4 Pro, these problems are all but completely eliminated. Golf Club 2 isn't the most amazing looking game, but it looks pretty good. And it has steady enough performance that I don't have an issue there either. What makes Golf Club 2 unique is the emphasis on user-generated content, which you don't need PlayStation Plus to utilize. You don't need PlayStation Plus for this game at all. Part of the career mode in Tiger Woods 05 was designing the ultimate dream course that got a rating based on how well made it was. But the tools were really restrictive and you could only do so much. Golf Club 2 has extremely powerful tools, effectively allowing you to create entire maps and then build a golf course on top of it. Think Far Cry 3 or 4 map creation. If there's one downside, it's that the tools definitely aren't intuitive. They're actually rather difficult to use, but even beyond course creation you can create groups or clubs people can join and set up events and seasons for people to play in. The way career mode goes is entirely up to you here. Content in the game can vary in quality, though it hardly matters because there's so much of it. The physics here are a bit difficult to get used to, particularly because balls don't like to quit rolling, and sometimes it doesn't quite feel like your swing animation fits how hard or soft you're hitting the ball, particularly when putting. But the physics are not bad by any means. Though one problem I definitely do have is that there doesn't seem to be a way to speed up or skip shot animations, which is a feature in literally every other golf game ever. Probably the biggest difference between Golf Club 2 and other golf games though is the lack of progression. That's right, your character doesn't grow in any way in this game. On the one hand, this can mean the game feels extremely barren when it comes to goals to strive for. On the other hand though, this means the game comes down purely to skill and strategy, rather than also expecting you to spend time just to play better. Mechanically, the game does fairly evenly split your options between those that require skill and those that you prepare before the shot. So this game sort of ends up being a straightforward compromise between extremes. Probably a good place to end then. Golf games are often written off as boring, repetitive, and lacking any sort of growth between iterations, but the games are pretty varied in a lot of ways. The last EA golf game, Rory McIlroy, was designed so that the entire course could be loaded into the game at once. This meant that you could mess up shots so bad that they land on another hole in the course, and instead of getting an out-of-bounds penalty, you just played the ball from there. On top of that, there was at least one fantasy course that used Battlefield-esque Levolution tech, where you could see things like a giant ship crash into the course, which you would then have to play around. Others, like Golf Club 2, focus on creating a platform for people playing to decide whether they want to do something crazy like golf up a waterfall, or just play nothing but realistic courses in fully simulated seasons with their friends. Even if you don't like golf, I think everyone should play at least one golf video game before they die. What do you guys think? How many of you have ever played a golf game? What type of mechanics do you prefer? And where do you think golf games should go next? Sound off in the comments below. Give Christian's channel some love, and I'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you're interested in another one, here's the last one that I uploaded. You can also follow me on Twitter or subscribe by hitting the subscribe button.